what inspired you to get into movie making, filmmaking?
Only watching movies. So I basically growed up, watched a lot of like the Hollywood classics, Western, and so on, and TV. And we had a little movie theater in my hometown. And I regularly, even when I was 6 or 7, watched the Sunday matinees and stuff like this. So it was really only like I love making movies. Or I love watching movies. So I will love making movies, and nothing else. That was the motivation.
And from like, was it from a young age like that that you like? At what point did you decide, okay, this is something that I want to be like the rest of my life?
That was really when I was 10 or 11. And I just watched Mutinity of the Bounty with Marlon Brando. And it was this kind of like, wow, if I make movies, I would have all that adventures. That my life will, will be great. And so then I started with Super 8 millimeter, later with VHS, like the SVHS, the little tapes and stuff. So before the internet age, basically, before video and cell phones and everything. So it was more work to make films. What was in a way also not so bad, because you had to really think about for what you use film material. Like every shot has to have something. In today's time, where everybody shoots nonstop videos with their cell phones, you compete against 50 million TikTok influencers, basically.
Yeah.
And so it was a different time where you really there were not so many people doing short movies or whatever. And then I was lucky that I had Frank Lustig, my basically in the same class as me in school, and he wanted to make films too. So we basically worked together in making little films and started documentaries and stuff like this. Yeah.
Do you have movies that you would consider, I don't want to say favorite movies, but do you have any comfort movies? Movies that you would find yourself watching multiple times or maybe put on in the background while you work or something like that?
Um, no, when I work or write something or be on my desk here doing something, then I'm not watching music. Then I listen to music sometimes, but not to uh, um, not watching something and working. That doesn't work out. If you hear the background, that's my dogs running around and barking around. Uh, but there are films I always like, in a way, watched various times, and
Mhm.
also like what I said, Jaws, for example. I watched it at least 10, 12 times. I love the film, and I can also rewatch. Like I liked Western, right? So not only like whatever Kevin Costner Dances with Wolves I watched various times, but also the classics like El Dorado, the Sergio Leone films I watched various times. Once Upon a Time in the West, Once Upon a Time in America. Um, you know, this kind of the Clint Eastwood ones from Sergio Leone, um, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, Godfather, French Connection, Leon the Professional. Like, so there are some films I never regret in rewatching them. And there are also films, of course, you watch, they're good, they're important, you kind of love them when you watch it, but also, like, I don't need to see that again.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever, Titanic, Avatar 1, whatever. These are films I watched in the movie theater, and you are aware this is a masterpiece, right? So, but I never wanted to watch them again. But Terminator 2, I watched 5, 6 times, and Terminator 1 actually too. And where you have this kind of it's never boring. Escape from New York with Kurt Russell, like the old John Carpenter stuff, The Thing, and so on. I can always watch them, and they're just great films, and and they are fun rewatching them. uh, there was a night like 2 years or 3 years ago, and it was like 11:30 p.m. I was really tired, and then I saw in the normal German TV the Deer Hunter played, you know and I know how long the film is, but I couldn't stop watching it. So I watched the whole thing till 2 a.m. I couldn't stop watching it. And because also it's like this kind of what you said with House of the Dead. Of course, I cannot compare the films, but there are films, they remind you to your own past, your own film history past, how you learn to watch films or think about films. And then it's like this kind of like uh, a romantic thing to watch even the Deer Hunter, even if you know how bad it gets in the film, with the Russian roulette and stuff. So, but there are less and less films of the last 20 years. I say they are part of it,
Yeah.
where I watch them over and over again. Less and less, I have to say. They are mostly older films.
Is there any horror films in particular that you enjoy that maybe are seen as like not so good by like the mainstream audience?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly what the reviews were of a lot of films or horror films, where you watch them and you think like they got bad reviews or something. And I mean, when I grew up, when I was 15, 16, I faked my, not the whole ID, but the school ID. So I could watch like in the Leverkusen, was a cinema that showed almost only horror films.
Nice.
And also the Dario the Argento stuff, the Fulci stuff. And I watched them all when I was 15, 16. So I got in. And there was scary situations like Mother's Day, Man Eater. That was very brutal and scary and disturbing, and so Faces of Death, where you don't know, is it real, is it not real, and stuff like this. And this is stuff I never forgot, but they're totally like, I loved that films because you really had an impact. You were scared. You were like, fuck, how I go home with my moped. I had a Chow Vespa when I was 15, and I had to drive them through the night home to Burscheid from Leverkusen. And there were like some lonely roads going there, And then when you watch this classics, Carpenter also, like The Thing was really scary. And then who did 30 Days and 30 Nights? Wes
Um,
Craven, or I don't know who, but it was also a film like that was scary, and that was like this kind of, as soon as it got winter time, you feel like, I don't know.
so I have some fan questions, audience questions, whatever you want to
Yeah,
call them. I'll just
yeah.
fire them off quick fire. So we have first up is from Salmon in the Sky asks, do you enjoy watching the movies you have made?
Yes and no. I mean, I today I was very happy watching House of the Dead again, and there are barely films I made I really don't want to watch. Like, for example, Stoic is very brutal and very hard, like Seed
Yeah.
also, and these are not necessarily feel good
Yeah.
films.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
drag you down. And these are, for example, they're not on my list. Like, I have to watch them regularly. I love to watch Postal again. All the Rampage films, Sold on Wall Street. These are films I really like to rewatch. And Blood Rain 1, In the Name of the King. There, I had a good time shooting them too. Like, in Blood Rain 1 was very hard to shoot, but it was like, still, I remember like how crazy it was to shoot the film in
Mm.
Romania with all that actors and the bad food and the, the chaos. So it was, but I really enjoyed watching it. And there are films like Final Storm, where I don't have this suddenly with Ray Liotta, where I don't have that deep inner connection with,
Mm.
you know. And Darfur, for example, is a film, it's hard to watch. It's so brutal also and so real that I know it's maybe my best film or definitely my top three, but I'm not enjoying watching it again. But Tunnel Rats, I enjoy watching again. The
Yeah.
Vietnam War film, it's also very brutal, but it's different. It has this kind of entertaining factor to it, like what the Platoon has and stuff like this. So yeah.
Oddspace 1995 asked, what, if anything, could the fans or the audience do to get you to make video game adaptations again?
I don't know. We just said we do House of the Dead, the reboot. So, but of course, it's like also a question what rights you have. What can you do? Did you get the rights again? If, for example, House of the Dead, I would have to license from Sega again, and I don't know who is there still. Like the people from the old days are all not existing anymore. I don't even know if I would get the rights. And then really, it really depends on what the circumstances are like. What you want to do, what can you do? But I would love to do Postal 2 a long time. I think it's a movie what would be necessary now more as ever to
Mm,
do, but you also cannot cheap it out. Postal 1 was a lot of action in it, was a lot of a lot of different actors, settings and so on. It was not a small movie, and that is what we talked about House of the Dead too. If you make a too cheap second version, you destroy it
yeah.
forever. And you kind of hurt the first one too. And that is the thing where I don't really want to do Postal 2 if I don't get a real budget together for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Electronic Device 788 asks, how does a crazy bastard like you survive and manage to get work in an equally crazy industry like the entertainment specific Hollywood when you were in the thick of things?
Yeah, I mean, let's say that we discussed it, right? That the disadvantage is I was never part of the system,
Yeah.
but it's also an advantage when you used to, like, I sold my films myself to the British, to the Spanish distributor. So, and I have a lot of contacts. So if I make a film, I know there are at least 20 companies that are willing to buy it. The question is how much I get, right? So, and that makes me in a way a little more independent as a lot of filmmakers that, uh, and it's all based on House of the Dead, Alone in the Dark, Blood Rain, because that were the films that ultimately made me in a way famous and made me making films for the world. And
Mm,
from like Heart of America and Black Woods, whatever, they were not like everywhere. They were got a
yeah.
few deals, but they were not like from Argentina to Korea. But these films went, and so since then I have some good contacts. And the other good thing is that I kind of own, of course, some territories are sold, like what I told you with Lionsgate or whatever, where they still have the rights. But a lot of films I own where I could resell and get money. And that money I could do to shoot last year First Shift, for example, the police film, what will come out this year. And now I shot that Run film, like an action migrant film, basically.
Hmm.
So where I can use that money to make more films. What is good? I'm not eager to tank my money, but film is like my life. And I recognize that when I said 2016, I stopped making films. Nothing makes sense. Blockbuster is bankrupt. It's all over. But I recognize after 4 years, like I just cannot not make films. I just have to do so. I have to tell stories, and yeah. So that is the thing. But so it's this kind of like I'm. I did indirectly a lot of things that were not clever for the public reputation, but I did also indirectly something what was good for me as a producer filmmaker, where I kept the control over a lot of films.
Just to follow on from that answer, you talk about your retirement from the industry in 2016. How far into that time period did it take before it set in like, oh wait a second, this is my life, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I was put here for? How long into that period of time was it before you came to that realization?
Around 2 years.
Okay.
And it was then also like that idea to go away from Vancouver, to go back to Europe. and 2020 we did it then, and then COVID hit. So it was this kind of like, because of the corona stuff, it was a lot of delayed, with all the shutdowns. You cannot really make films and so on. But it was really after 2 years I felt I cannot. We were at that restaurant in Vancouver. I run that
Yep.
restaurant and so on. But I felt like it's a nice thing to have a restaurant, and I like good food, but it's not my life. I cannot be forever here talking to the guests, like
Yeah.
Rocky Balboa before.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you feel like, no, that is like, that will be not the end of the Uwe Boll story. And then I felt, but what to do? Like, how can I get back? And I made a lot of proposals to the streamers and so on. Dungeon Siege, like as a TV show, like TV series, but they never, in a way, jumped on it and gave me the money. So I had to keep doing the independent films.
Hmm. Ridiculousness Mess asks, in my opinion, some of your better films like Stoic and Tunnel Rats tend to have a grim, even nihilistic streak to them. Does this in any way reflect your worldview?
Absolutely. Yeah, but it doesn't mean, if you're like more a nihilistic, existentialistic person, um, you still can enjoy life. You
Yeah.
still can
Yeah.
have, you still can laugh about it. And I think these things, like this kind of films, they were made out of this kind of, I like this kind of films myself. Like when I mean, we just stated what films are my favorites. They're not the happy films, right? So they are more like the films where it's about life and death, and where whatever, from the crime scene to the war scene, whatever. And that is because I like watching films like this. But at the same time, it's also like there is no real reason to be super optimistic about how things are going on in the history on the planet. And I think there are this super optimistic people. Everything is always great, and then they like do suicide. And you think like, I
Yeah.
thought everything was great. I told you the whole time everything is shit, but I'm not doing suicide because and I feel, I get better through life in facing reality. And then when I grab subject matters like what I did with Darfur or Southern Wall Street Rampage, they're very political also. But at the same time, I try to do genre films like this. And when I just finished the shoot of Run, I got Amanda Plummer, James Russo, so I got good cast together. And I made an action film about the boat migrants, because when you have this kind of migrant films, they're all like, oh, the poor migrants or whatever,
Mm.
So they're all like these dramas. But I made like a film that plays in one day, and the boat comes, one guy takes a hostage, the thing gets completely out of control and gets very violent. And a lot of people will maybe attack me for the film, but the reality is that is what is my statement to it. That this kind of, uh, that is true, that happens with a lot of migrants from Islamic African nations. You will have more violence, you have things getting out of control, and the question is how much you want from it. And at the same time, of course, it's only 1 out of 100. The other migrants want a good life, they want a good time, they want money, they want to work, whatever. And I'm not like, I think my film will show all sides of this, but it shows also that the way it goes now, and in England it's the same, it's a lose-lose situation. It's now a lose situation for the migrants, because they, like, nobody wants them anymore in a way. There are too many. And then at the same time, for the citizens, for the people, it's also a lose situation, because their business gets hurt. Lampedusa in
Mm.
Italy was a tourist destination since 10 years. It's like camps and camps and camps of migrants. And I think it's the good thing is, um, in a way, the good thing is, if you don't get paid from a streamer to do a film, you can do the film you want. You
Yeah,
can do the film you
yeah,
think it's important to see to tell that story this way. And the same I did with Darfur, where of course I put the the finger in the wound in showing the graphic violence, what that means when you have 500,000 people in real getting hacked into pieces. And and other people would make then that one Darfurian refugee comes to Europe and studies in Oxford, and I prefer to make a
yeah,
film where they're getting hacked into pieces, because that is what's actually happening, right? So, and
yeah.
yeah, there was a good line, a guy on Amazon, like when I read, I don't know what film it was, there was like under the film where the commentaries, and one guy wrote like, when Uwe Boll is not like making stupid video game based films, he actually makes the most existential, brutal, cold blooded films I ever watched in my whole life. And he was referring to like a Rampage, to this kind of films like Darfur, Stoic, And I felt that was great, actually, that he got that, that there is
Mm,
a difference between being. But I always defend the poor genre films too, because I cannot watch Darfur daily.
yeah, yeah,
That is the thing. It's like I'm totally aware that the films you enjoy more and are more entertaining and are like the House of the Dead and this kind of films, because they are lighter in a way. They're very brutal, but it's not this kind of Darfur where you actually think that woman gets raped now and then impaled. So, but I think both is important. I think both is also like when I see myself watching films, I love whatever Tulsa King with Stallone. I
yeah,
love
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yellowstone, or this kind of just entertaining films. I love them to watch. And when then in between you watch a film what is like very hard hitting and really gets you, that you watch then once, and like There Will Be Blood is a masterpiece. I love that film, but it's very dark and drags you down.
Mm,
So and I think I watched it twice in my life, um, because it's not, especially when you know what happens, it's not entertaining anymore. It's just very hard to watch, even if that was one of the last real masterpieces in cinema in the last 15-20 years.
yeah, I guess to have that balance between the two. Zombie 3184 ask if you feel some satisfaction on the current state of the MCU because you were an early critic of this IP and many more.
MCU, the
Marvel
At the
Cinematic Universe.
Marvel. Okay, okay, my God. He should say Marvel. And yeah, I mean, that is the thing. It's not that I'm aware that they're in between, they're very big films, similar to uh, like the Avengers stuff. And, like there are big films and there are films in between. When I watched Thor 1,
Mhm.
I enjoyed it. It had humor. It was this kind of like, the same with Iron Man, that had something. But when it keeps going and going and going, and they make parts after parts after parts, and everybody is just cashing in on it, and the actors cashing in on it, and then it gets this kind of like annoying, and I don't like it
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
And that is the thing about how many Spider-Mans we went through. It's like I liked Spider-Man almost the most always, because it was always funny too. It had a funny aspect to
Mm.
it, so it was very entertaining for me. In Batman, for example, I got so tired of Batman, and I felt after the Dark Knight film, it's done.
Yeah,
Like that was a masterpiece, and you should finish it. And you should never keep going with fucking Batman forever. It was just so bad, like the one Batman after the other, and they all never could do another film in that quality. And that is the thing with Joker now coming a second part. That was like when I watched Joker, that was for me a standalone masterpiece and was the best film I saw that whole year. I loved that film. I was blown away, and I
yeah.
was wow.
Very, very good. And
Yeah,
it kind of alludes into like what you said about some of your work where I feel like if you were to give me a realistic version of what the Joker would look like, that's exactly it. How do you
Yeah,
feel about the I don't know if it's a rumor or if it's confirmed that the second one will feature like musical
I know.
aspects?
I know, but in a way that gives me hope that the film is so different, but also amazing, that I just hope it, because you cannot even continue this what they did with the
Yeah.
Joker, right? So I think that it was also from Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, an unbelievable performance where I can really only relate it to the Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, where you have this kind of uh, that's it. Like, like where
Yeah.
like there cannot be a better actor for this part and who pulls it off. And that is the same. And I don't know, but I hope it's not like The Shining part two. So, like where you sit there and you think like Ewan McGregor, he's a very good actor, but he
Mhm.
cannot do this, right? So it's like you cannot. The Shining also, like, one, I think, maybe the best film Stanley Kubrick ever did, and that was something what also I watched it in the movie theater, and it totally got me. It was like so scary and a real slow burn, we have to say in today's words, but an unbelievable masterpiece. I mean, Jack Nicholson, like, hands down sensational. I bought the soundtrack. I still have it. If I ever want to get like very uncomfortable, you play that soundtrack. It
Yeah.
makes you crazy. So, but that is the thing. It's like, and then the second part um, was very, very disappointing for me because it was not honoring even the first part, where you
Mhm.
feel like, what the fuck? What are they doing here? And I hope that I think Todd Phillips is doing the Joker 2 too, right? It's the same guy.
Yep.
So that
Yep.
is a good sign. And I hope that he's not like just delivering something because the first one made so much money, that they really found something to blow us away again.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Alpha State asked, "How did you keep going in the face of such extreme criticism? So many people made harsh comments about not only the movies, but you personally." Um, and there's a follow-on question that I'll ask in a second.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. I You can't, you need humor, right? So you just get over it in a way, and you can also not read everything. I'm not like every day Google myself and see what's posted,
Yeah.
and at the same time, uh, I think it's this kind of, don't take it too serious and know what you did in real. I know my
Yeah.
films, as we said when we were sitting down, how great it looks, and it still keeps up. So they were there is a misinterpretation of it. They got like wronged in a way, and at the same time, I see it also what you see. I see, especially in the last 2 years, more and more people contact me and say, I actually like your films. I enjoyed that, and stuff like this. And when you go to a convention, I barely go to conventions, but when I'm there, I get a lot of love, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people say, I love that film, that I come and have to sign all the stuff they bring with them. That makes me happy, So, and it's the thing. I think I'm a very realistic person, and I'm a very big film buff and watch thousands and thousands, thousands of films. So I can judge myself where I stand,
Yeah.
and where the individual movies stand. And uh, that is the thing. When they wrote about In the Name of the King, whatever, like the wooden Jason Statham, like stuff like this. And then I said always, yeah, if you compare In the Name of the King with like the best episodes of Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, it doesn't hold up, right? But compare it with the Golden Compass or all that other shit what was done and got better reviews, and now watch that films again. and that is the thing. I got worse reviews as a lot of films. They were way worse as my films, and then years later, people totally agree with it. Then they say,
Yeah.
yeah, he's kind of right. I watched In the Name of the King 3 times, and I still enjoy it. And then you have others where they completely disappeared after, but when they came out, they got better reviews. So
Yeah, it's funny, like, people don't have it relative to, like, of course, if you're gonna pick those really unique, like, once in a lifetime movie
yeah,
and then compare anything to it, it's always gonna seem lesser than. To follow, and something, actually, there was a quote, and I can't remember specifically, that you made in the Raging Ball documentary, where you talk about, I think at the very start they ask you something about, like, critics or people reviewing, and it was like, you said something about, the idea of somebody, I guess, sitting in the armchair talking about, like, shitting on a project or shitting on somebody's work, versus the guy who goes out and gets it done, and the
yeah.
importance of that, regardless of whether you think the end project was good or bad. The fact that I'm not just a dreamer, I go out and do what I say I'm gonna do.
Yeah, and I totally agree. That I hope I said it, but I agree with it, right? So it's always easier to watch a soccer game and
Yeah,
and tell everybody what a loser Mbappe was yesterday when they got out against Dortmund, whatever, right? But to play is a different thing, and I think that is very important, that you have to be able to see the difference. And I think you have to honor the work everybody put in. When they compare me always to Ed Wood, I said that is unfair to Ed Wood, because he had no money and made with no money some films, and in a way got a cult following.
mhm,
Otherwise, there would be not a Tim Burton film about him. Like, that is the thing. He kind of made an impression with making nothing with nothing. And
yeah,
that is unfair, because I had budgets and I had, like, real actors and so on. It's unfair to Ed Wood. And I think it's very important to honor the work people put in, you know,
yeah,
and to say, look, you can make very low budget films, but if you work hard on it and you cut it over months and get some music and put it on and you mix it, it's better, as to just sit there and bash everything you watch. And you think, like, because you've wrote a great review, you can shoot now Lord of the Rings yourself.
mm,
Because that is, I think, especially with the professional film critics, they have that idea that they put the same work into something to just watch a film and write an hour long, like, sitting there an hour and bash the film, that they did a great thing and put so much effort in, and should get so much credit. But it's easier to just write about something as to actually make it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. The follow-on question from that is, equivalent elk asked, "Why didn't you ever become a pro boxer? You were clearly a natural, and how good did it feel to get to beat the shit out of your critics?"
Yeah, it felt very good, And I went to boxing when I was 17, and did like 14 years. So I trained hard, and I was lucky. I was in a club in Leverkusen in Germany, where a lot of uh, German champions were training, and Olympic champions. So I did a lot of sparrings against very, very good people. That is why I can defend myself. But
Mhm,
you cannot, like, really turn into a super boxer if you don't start way earlier.
yeah,
When you really follow up, like the Tyson Furies and all these people, they were with 4 or 5 years. They
yeah,
started this, and then you will have not a chance if you start so late. And yeah, and I wanted to stay alive, and I got my C6 disc is titanium, because it was destroyed, and then I couldn't, like, move my arms anymore, and I had needed an operation. Stuff like this made me also to to slow down in this and focus
yeah.
on the movie making.
This is not a question that anybody asked, but to kind of follow on from that, now looking back on that whole scenario, again, it's an to me anyway, it feels like another one of those situations where you kind of broke ground, I guess, because it seems quite like, and especially now, I feel like we spoke about this earlier. We're maybe coming into an era now where people are sick of the woke culture and all this diversity, inclusion bullshit. People are getting sick of it. And to look back at the fact that you done something like that where you held this event and you brought these people and you're like, okay, well, if this is the stuff you want to say online and it's clear that some of you didn't put in very much research or there's no real insight. Let's
Yeah.
let's settle it then. It seems wild to think, that that was something that you got done and kind of groundbreaking in a way, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, it's like I started the influencer boxing, right? So now
Yeah.
you have like KSI and everybody that makes shitloads of money, and Paul Logan, Logan Paul, and all these people. I in a way started this, right? So this kind of the mix between world wrestling and UFC boxing, and that the streamers jumping on it and stuff like this. Yeah, but it was like. I felt this fuckers, basically, I want to beat up. And I felt that he has a strategy how I can do this. In inviting them to the film set, telling them we do boxing. They were lying that I promised them not to hit them or something. Some of them were lying later. That
Mm,
was from the beginning on crystal clear that it's a real boxing fight and not like a show match or something. And they got the mouthpieces and they had 3 months time to train. And Chris Alexander, he actually trained, at least he filmed himself training, so they were aware that they have to do something, they should come up and fight. So and I felt a relief doing it, it
yeah.
was this kind of like uh, the dream of every director to do this.
Yeah.
So I felt good doing it. And in general, I think whatever you do in your life, you feel better if you do things.
Mm,
You feel not good. And I see that also what you said was the political landscape. So when I just shot the film, I'm super happy shooting the film. As soon I'm home, I'm automatically see the news and it drags me down, because you feel like, I cannot do a lot about what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in Gaza, what's going on with the migrants, whatever. But overall, I can only tell my opinion, right? So, but it feels better when you're actually busy with some stuff, whatever it is, and you push negativity in a way away from you. I could
mm,
be like, I had various people I know over the years as a producers, they say, I would killed myself, I would do suicide, I would kill myself. And I said, yeah, how stupid that would be to kill yourself because of bad reviews, or to kill yourself because some crazy people emailing you, you're a big piece of shit, whatever, right? So that is insane
yeah.
and that is when you get into this kind of like the hole, you dig yourself deeper into the
Mm,
hole as more you read, as more you think about it yourself. And I think that is a lot of people, they make that mistake, and that is back to the woke culture of today. Now it's all about this. The people are so insecure that they totally, like, let's say, losing their shit if somebody twitters over them, whatever, you're just a wanker, or
yeah.
like whatever. They completely losing their shit, and it's like, I just read today, like Drake, the rapper, he has like a fight with the Kendrick Lamar
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
whatever. And they shot the guy, like the guard in Toronto, right?
Yep.
He's not in life danger, but he's in jail, in the hospital. And I feel like when you saw the tweets from Drake and the other guy, you have to say, guys, you're both rich, like, and you should just like stop the bullshit and not like try to react Tupac Shakur again,
Yeah.
against
Yeah.
Biggie or whatever, and now you start actually killing yourself for absolutely no fucking reason because you're healthy, spoiled, rich guys, and like calm down, and that is the thing. But that is also the thing that it's all about the talk and the reputation and what is online, what is in social media. It they define their whole lives through this. Even
Yeah,
people like this, it's insane.
yeah, it's wild, and then there's like parts of the world that want to bring in like 25 years in prison for hate speech and stuff like that, and like even a tweet can be turned into like
Yeah.
the fact that you could put something on Twitter or wherever, and if it could be proven in court that it was some form of hate speech, you can go to jail for 25 years, which is crazy.
In the US or in England or where? In
In
what country?
Canada is actually the one that want to bring this in.
Yeah, but look at Canada. They're so woke. That was one of the reasons we also left because it's like this kind of uh, they're all over it, the
Yeah,
political correctness,
yeah,
and whatever. Every kid in elementary school, if you're not transgender, you're wrong. Like like, that turned into this craziness now, and that is the problem. My problem is with the whole political thing is that you have whoever is in power tries to undermine and push away the other opinions. And they
mm,
try to make now in Germany too, the Green Party here, they try to make it what you say, illegal, but
yeah,
only when it's against them. When it's against them, it's
yeah,
totally, you have to be a Nazi or a crazy person who criticize their politics. So you should go to jail because you uh, are a danger for democracy. And they do that now in every country.
mhm,
And it gets far too far. And I'm a big fan, of course, of free speech. And I think especially in art or film or whatever, you should be able to do everything, whatever you want, and there should be no censorship at all. So because you can always say, I'm not watching this.
yeah,
But in Germany, for example, the uncut Caligula is still not allowed. The 120 Days of Sodom is not allowed. That is film history stuff, right? And you think like, are you retarded? I mean, what the fuck? I mean, if like, of course, for this you have the age things, but when you're over 18, you should decide what you want to watch.
what you get, yeah,
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 and if you want to watch only porn movies, you watch only porn movies, or you watch only horror, you watch only horror. But you cannot tell adult persons, no, we decide what you watch, and from now on, you watch only David Attenborough's last drama, or we shut you down forever. So it's like completely insane. But that is in Germany all over the place with the subsidized films, with the German films who get the money. They're all subsidized or paid from TV. And they have this streamlined total crap show where
mm,
every film like lover finds 2 or 3 good German productions per year and 150 unwatchable bullshit films where you think like, why this get made? Oh wait, here is the black girl who assimilates into the transvestite world. So check mark, check mark, check mark. The director is a Persian woman who exiled Iran. So of course they got the subsidies. So if they can make movies or not, that doesn't matter. And and that is the thing I think where what you said too, like everybody's tired of it, but everybody is kind of scared too because
yeah,
now the politics moving forward with that, as you said, real penalties for you say something wrong, and that is always the begin of the opposite of freedom, you
yeah,
know
yeah,
and that is the I had a talk. Friends of mine are here living in Germany forever, but they're Russian, and I discussed with them the whole situation in Russia, and they said, look, in Russia we were more free as here. And I say, but if you say something against Putin, you are in the gulag, you're dead, right? Like they said, no, 100%. They said they were not talking about the political landscape, but not everybody is Navalny. But they said when you just live in Russia, There are no blitzers, like, like where you drive too fast, and in
Mhm.
Germany, it's now 30 everywhere in the cities.
Yeah.
And even if you roll, you get flashed. You have to pay. There is no bullshit shutdowns at COVID. You don't need a license to fish in a river for like to fish basically. You can have your fucking grill out and barbecue wherever you want. And he said that freedom is in Russia 100 times better as in the West, because nobody gives a shit about anything. Like, it's basically, really, you can do whatever you want, but if you go against Putin, you're toast. But in a way, as a normal worker, you can totally live with it,
Yeah, it's not gonna
but
affect
I
you as
feel,
much.
yes, and but I know when I went with my bike at the Corona time with the bike outside, and the police stopped me and gave me a ticket because I didn't have a mask on the fucking bike. I was like, are you guys completely out of it? It has nothing to do who I should like give COVID when I bike at the river, but that insanity happened, and we all know it. It happened. They went far over the top with that shutdowns, and then they kept it. They kept this stuff on, uh, and they like, in a way, the politics liked it. What you can do with
Yeah.
the people if you want, and now it's going to that mind control. If you don't say this, you're toast. If you don't say that, you're out. And we coming into situations where real assholes, predators, criminals getting the same penalty from society as people that just said something.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to see a huge difference if you make a joke about uh, Chinese, or you beat 5 Chinese up with a baseball stick. And if the penalty is the same, then something is major wrong. But that is where it's going to, and that is it's a huge problem in the Western democracies.
How, as a creative, then, as a director, a producer, like, moving forward in that kind of age that we seem to be living in right now, how do you navigate that to continue to work within those confines? Because I feel like you're someone who won't allow himself to be boxed in or told, well, you can make the movie, but also, some dickhead who owns a dental practice is going to tell you what you have to cut from your own movie.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm not in that situation, and I don't want to be in that situation, right? So, and especially with the content, like the film I just did, most of the people said don't do it,
Mm,
but I felt it's so wrong how we handle that migrant situation, that it's completely insane, actually, and that we are not getting anything done in regards of uh, reducing the amount of migrants. And that is what I mean. I don't have a problem with any skin color, a nation or whatsoever. I have a lot of friends that are Muslims, like the thing, but I
yeah,
have a problem if they want to take my freedom down. I have a problem with them going through the streets and say death to all white people or Christians, or who's not pro Sharia law. And in England, this is a huge problem too, right? Where you say like, okay, so now you vote these people in, they're getting on the ballots and stuff,
yeah,
who want Sharia law and throw gay people from the watchtower down, and women should be only at home and out of school, like the Taliban. How can we not defend our freedom? How can we like let them more and more and more come into the country and getting 5 kids and whatever, and taxpayers need to pay for it, that they in the end can take over. So, and that is the thing where there I have a big problem with this, and that has nothing to do with racism or being right
yeah,
wing, whatever. That has to do with logical thinking. And you cannot in continuity have three, like in Germany, for example, you can say 300,000 coming in every year and 15,000 getting sent back. So mathematically, you only have to wait it out and you're toast. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Makes
and
no
that is
sense.
no. And then as soon a political party like proclaims this, are we crazy? Then there are Nazis and racists, and they want to dismantle the democracy. even if they want to keep the democracy. So, and that is the thing, what is this kind of like where the public is kind of torn back and forth, between the good old big parties, like what is in England, the Labour and the Tories and whatever, right? So, but you have the more and more the feeling that they are not like actually solving the problems. They're only
Yeah.
talking about it and they're not getting it, and that is the thing where I have in my film there's discussions going on between like boat rental people, like the business people from the city, and the mayor of the town says like, what should we do? Shoot them, right? And they said yes, So, and that is, I mean, in a movie you can do this, not a
Mhm.
documentary, but I wanted to show stuff like this. That of course, if it gets more and more and more, as more violent the end result
Yeah.
will be, So, and that is the thing. Instead of like saying, look, from now on, we keep them in Africa, we handle them in Africa, we support them in Africa, but we shut down that boat rental, that boat stuff, like where the boat's coming, right? And of course, that goes only with military force. If the smugglers know that there's no more boat coming to Europe because there are real ships, like not the rescue ships, the opposite of
Mhm.
the rescue ships patrolling around, then the boat smuggling will stop, right? The people will not go on the boats anymore because it's too dangerous for them, and
Mhm.
then it will stop. And I think that is the thing where we have to be aware we're living in the real world, and that is what I take the Ukraine war. On day one, I said the Ukraine will never win the war against Russia. I mean, it's just mathematically completely impossible that if that war continues, that the Ukraine will win. Everybody said I'm a fucking Putin spy and whatever, And I said no, I'm just a logical thing. And the Russians have like over 1.2 million soldiers and have one of the best weapon systems and nuclear weapons and everything. They will not lose the war. And now everybody, oh fuck, the Ukraine is losing the war, right? 2 3 years later, now everybody panics that the Ukraine is actually losing the war because they're worn out, they're tired, they run away, they're running out of weapons. And so, and I said from day one on, it's not that I say Putin is the good guy, he is the bad guy. But the world was, Genghis Khan was maybe also
Mm.
the bad guy, but he won, and there's a lot of times where the bad guys won. And
Yep.
and that is the thing. I said I'm just a realist, and the Ukraine Russia war will be only over when Putin pulls the plug.
Yeah.
Nobody else can finish the war, and everybody talks about peace without Putin. And when Putin said he would talk about ending the war, but he's not invited to any kind of conference when the G7 and the G8 and the G20 and everywhere they're sitting and talking, and then they all say like, you need to stop the war to Putin. And there is the price to pay to stop the war. That is unfortunately in the real world happening. And so that is what I mean. It's like you can look at reality, how reality really is, even if you don't like it, but you analyze the situation. Or you are a dreamer, and then you will have a hard landing. And that is
Yeah.
what Europe will have with the migration. And that is what the Ukraine will have if Zelensky prefers to keep fighting,
Mm.
because then he will be maybe rich at the Riviera at one point because he took the last helicopter out, but his population will be under Russian occupancy. So, and that is the thing. It's like that makes me, coming back to what you said before, that I'm a very rationalist, existential, cynical person also. Yeah, sorry, because I looked into world history and how it all plays out, So, and it's not that the good people win like in the movies.
Yeah, and that's something I've heard a quote before, and I can't remember exactly where I heard it, but it was the idea of, history is left to be told by, whoever is left alive, or whoever wins is the one who gets to tell the story. Might not necessarily always be the good guy.
Exactly, and that is the point. It's like, and you also have to see the irrational behavior of people. Like Putin wants to stay in power. He cannot go back to Moscow and say, "Oh, it was all bullshit. We lost." Right? Then
Yeah.
he's toast. He's done. Right? He cannot do it as a dictator. You cannot do it. It's like you had it in the Second World War. You had it in the First World War. You had it in the Vietnam War. They doubled down and then lost. This kind of like they could settled very early on all that wars if they would admit it that it's not playing out as planned, and they should just like call it a day or something. But no, you have crazy people like Hitler, or you have crazy people in other wars, in a way also that the US didn't get it, that they will never win the Vietnam War, and they kept doing it and doing it in the whatever hope for a miracle there. And then later, how could we do so long the Vietnam War? How could we be so long in Afghanistan? How could we, later they're regretting it all. And that will be the same with that Ukraine war. They will sit there in the 5 years and say, why we dragged that war out forever? Why
Mm.
we didn't found a solution? So it's sad.
Speaking of that, and this is a fan question. I only have 2 or 3 more questions before I let you go. We have one from proper knowledge 989 asked, how did you get funding for films like Rampage? It's not exactly a project that most would seem to be comfortable aligning themselves with.
Yeah, I mean, that was the time where I was lucky that I still had some private investors who basically liked the stuff I was doing. And of course, the films were cheaper, as Alone in the Dark, Blood Rain, and
Mhm.
so on. And I was able to pre-sell them. So I think I'm good in leaving out, let's say, when you talk to investors or whatever, leaving out the dark backstory of Rampage, so, and just sell it like you have a RoboCop kind of guy and he's robbing a bank and destroys a city, whatever. They see it then more like an action film,
Mhm.
and I think the art of a producer is also to know who you talk to, so if I would told them the content of Bill Williamson's life and what he sings, they wouldn't invest in it, right? So, but I think in the end they were very happy with it because I did well. I mean, and it was also very strong on DVD everywhere worldwide, and yeah. But uh, that is, I think that is as a producer, I think you have to be like this kind of blunt, and what informations for the investors matter,
Yeah.
and you don't dig deep into the political content of the story.
Yeah. Somebody else asked, what are some things that you still either want to achieve in the film industry or feel like you have to achieve before you'll finally, s- feel like you're satisfied?
I mean, it's tough to say, right? So, but what I basically, if I could pick now, I would get tons of critical acclaim and everybody, or I make films, they recoup the money and I can keep making films. I would take number two. So if I can have enough fans that buy my films and go on Amazon or whatever, I see the future really in really doing little theatrical releases myself, in a way, to tour to theaters, what we said, like reevaluating, like bring House of the Dead back, or going on with Run on a theatrical tour, or and then going more for AVOD, like this streaming, and you get the advertising money and you hopefully get millions of clicks so you make some money back. I think that is a very good form of democracy in a way. Even put
Mhm.
it on YouTube again, against revenues with advertising. I see there more the future, because I don't think that this Hollywood people will change, that we
Yeah.
are back to the times where you had like a mogul, and greenlit like whatever because he liked it. I think that times are totally over. I think now you feed everything in there, they're feeding everything in their algorithms. And then the algorithm was always kind of the same. And
Yeah.
because it worked, I mean, how can a robot work, or AI? right? They go by what worked before. They will never go against the stream. If you load in uh, breaking the waves, or or something like the Deer Hunter,
Mhm.
it would not get made.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
would say, so we start with a 30 minutes hunting trip over the weekend. I thought we have a Vietnam War movie. Like all that films would never get made, uh, based on now it's different kind of people judging it, and they don't look into details anymore. They just load things into machines.
Yeah, and then just whatever the result is the winner, I guess.
Yeah, whatever comes out. Like on Amazon, when they here in Germany also, they changed last year, where you before I could send a script, they looked at it and said, no, we're not doing it, whatever, right? So
Mhm.
now you get a link, and you fill out in that link various sections, and then that link gets judged by AI. And if AI likes it, they will contact you in person. Otherwise, you get just an email.
Wow.
It didn't get selected. So there is no more, let's say, first wave are humans. It's the opposite. First, the
Yeah.
algorithm, the computer judges what should get in the hands of people who would maybe read the script, right? And I talked to them about it, and I said, look, but I couldn't load up the script. I said I could only answer all that questions, but the script, there was no button load up the script here. And they said, no, the questions are the most important things. I said, so if you get people who can just ask, answer
Yeah.
that questions in a way that the AI says that is sensational, we should have it, that means the script doesn't matter at all. Basically, it's the case that the script then doesn't matter at all. That brings it all to, you have a great pitch, but it doesn't hold up, doesn't matter.
Mm.
If the pitch is good, things go in production. And that is insane, but when you actually look at the Amazon Prime originals, I think you can actually detect it. That
Yep.
I watched a lot of shows, they falling apart in episode 2 or in minute 40, where you basically think, uh, what's the point of the whole show? Like,
Yeah.
but it was a great pitch.
Yeah, for sure. Um, asides from family, your dogs and close friends and stuff like that, what is one thing that makes you happy or you feel like you couldn't live without at this point?
That is tough to say. I mean, family and doing, like, I go on the bike, I go for long dog walks. I like good food, I like good wine, so that makes me happy. But definitely, I would not be not happy if I would not like make a film or be in
Yeah.
post production or try to develop another story or find another good story. So that is part of my life. And without this, to just do this other stuff, that would not make me happy. I'm not
Yeah.
the guy who's like happy to play golf or whatever. I've never played golf. Like, it's not like I can be not like a privateer to say, look, I just wait what money comes in from all my films, and I watch films and soccer, and I'm happy. No, I need to put my view out there.
So what does an average day for you, like in recent times, look like then? Do you have a strict schedule that you try to stick to, or is it a case of just the creativity that hits you from day to day?
No, I mean, in normal days, I get up at 6:30. My son has to go to school, so we have breakfast. I bring him to school. I walk the dogs. I come back. I check my emails and start answering things. Like, my PayPal was blocked, for example, because there were like PayPal misuse for whatever. I couldn't define things, and now I needed PayPal for my film to pay a lot of little bills. The airplane ticket for like an actor and whatever, and it was all blocked, and then they got frozen, and they were like, what are you doing? You blocked the money. You gave me the money, and now you don't. And I said, yeah, but I sent them the copies. I said, no, they need to investigate this, and then I get PayPal again. and stuff like this. So that keeps me very busy right now with this kind of total bullshit, and then with the post production. And for example, tomorrow I drive to by Cologne, and to Friday evening is I did a documentary about the Banditos motorcycle club, and it's for 3.5 years. It took 3.5 years because it was an up and down. They didn't want to do it anymore, and so on. But we do the premiere in a movie theater in Northern Westphalia on Friday, where a lot of motorcycle people will drive in. It will be very unsafe. Maybe I don't know what's happening. And then a week later in the same movie theater, we do the first shift German premiere. So that is good too. As I said, I like to go to movie theaters to screen the films, to talk with the audience, and and then basically on a normal day, where then I pick up my son later from school, I walk the dogs again, and in between I just sit on my desk and work, like for the business stuff or the creative stuff. I read scripts. Always when I shoot something, all the actors give me their favorite scripts they want to shoot. Like, and then you have to be polite, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot say like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe you want to shoot that film," and stuff like this happens all the time. They have a lot of strange tastes, some actors, and then we basically in between, sometimes when my son's at school, I watch something what he should not watch, basically,
Yeah.
and and I watch a film, and that I use this time, and then in the evening we normally go not too late in bed, and then I watch more, like films or whatever, and it's pretty simple in a way, right? So it's like, it's no spectacular Hollywood life or something.
Like people would imagine. Okay, so I have two final things before I let you go. Where is the best place for people to keep up with you going forward? Is there a place that you would like to direct people to, or where can people kind of, I guess, keep an eye out on maybe what you're up to next?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still also on Facebook, but on Facebook, I'm the guy with Bush and Bin Laden shaking the hands. There's so many Uwe Bolls, but that is me. And then on Twitter, I'm Uwe Boll 7, like just the
Mhm.
number 7,
Yep.
written, because there I always give updates, put some YouTube clips up, trailers, and give updates about what's happening with my films. I know Instagram is 10 times bigger and better, and I'm also on Instagram, but I don't like Instagram too much, to be honest,
Mm,
because I post a lot of links on Twitter, where you just click the link on and you
yep.
have the variety article about run or whatever. And on Instagram, you cannot really do this,
Yeah.
So, and I'm tired of putting a post, like a photo up, and put then the news besides the photo, and it's nothing to do with the photo, whatever, like it's kind of, I'm not the big Instagram guy. And I have also bollfilms.com is my website, where I will try soon to update it more. Now we're updating it every few months. There comes new photos on
Mhm.
whatever. So it's not the right place to really follow the actual things what happening. I think Twitter is the best, the Uwe Boll 7 account. Yeah.
So the links for all that stuff will be down below, guys. But as the man himself has said, that Twitter is probably the place where you can keep most up to date.
Yeah.
This has been a pleasure and an honor to be able to spend a couple of hours today chatting with you, just from a personal perspective. The final question I have before I let you go today is, I would normally ask why horror, but I feel like maybe it's better to maybe rephrase this, because I feel like that's kind of typecasting you in a way as a horror guy, which I think we've discovered from the conversation today, that your knowledge is a lot more vast than just horror. So I would say, why film? Why that medium, and what does it mean to you?
There I always go back to Orson Welles, who said we live in the age of film, and I totally agree, right? I think all the other arts are limited. only with film you can duplicate reality, make it your own reality, make it different, like tell it's the canvas and the book, and
Yeah.
like a book. I love books, I like paintings, and like all this stuff, but film brings it all in once, basically, and is a very emotionally deep, parallel reality, what sometimes defines reality better. And no, I'm a big film fan, and it's part of my life, and it's like it's so. Think about when you have every day, basically 3 hours every day dedicated to watch something or to be.
Yeah.
It's so part of a life that can never be a hobby is less, as film is so part of everything. And that is what I really think. It's like a great tool for everything. And for me, in as the last word now, I mean, we did so long here, but there is really like this kind of uh the one thing, what I told also these actors who give me the scripts or whatever, the one thing is it cannot be boring.
Yeah.
Like I said, it can be hard, it can be shocking, it can be funny, whatever. But if it's boring, you failed. And I try to never make a boring film. And that I think is the biggest goal. And a lot of films I watch are very boring. Where you think like he maybe brings the thing across, but it's just fucking boring what that film is, and it's dragged out, and there's no drive in it. And that I think I'm not boring, and I have the drive. It drives you forward. I barely had people say that was a really boring Uwe Boll
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to end it, because I will definitely second that and say, uh, whatever people might have said in the past about some of the movies or anything like that, I don't think anybody could ever say that you've made a boring movie in any way possible.
Yeah, thank you.
Like
Good.
I said, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. I wish you all the best. I hope to stay in touch over
Yeah,
the coming
send me the
years.
links, right? I will post the links like when I want to rewatch it.
Sure.
Okay,
And
very
like
good.
I said, for everybody listening, all the links to everything we talked about will be down below in the description. And yeah, we appreciate everyone taking the time to stick with us, and we'll see you real soon.
Perfect.